Are you a hot chicken guy?
I don't love spicy food, so I can't say I do.
Did you try it and you're like, I can't do this again?
Yeah, and I did, and I went like a 2 out of 7 or something like that on the hot scale. So I wasn't even halfway there. I got some work to do on that part for sure.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Drop. Greg Wyshynski, Arda Öcal here with you every Tuesday and Thursday, wherever you get your audio podcasts, as well as the NHL on ESPN YouTube. No better place to start on the show than this clip. Have a listen.
We win the game because we got ball. Yeah. We do. We do stupid stuff. We don't make some plays sometimes. Lose sight of certain momentums in the games. A number of things we have to work on and try to get consistent at. But one thing we do have is ball.
So obviously that was John Tortorella. Obviously the team has a certain character, a certain buy-in, if you will. Tort's actually no shortage of quotes this week, also about hitting in the NHL. But this particular quote, Wish, what was your first reaction?
My first reaction was trying to figure out when you were working with him, because for those who don't remember, John Tortorella was, in fact, a part of our broadcast team when we got the rights back at ESPN. Were there ever moments behind the scenes when he motivated you guys like this? Like, was there ever a John Tortorella moment where you guys were kind of shrugging your shoulders in January, and behind the scenes he's like, you guys got stones, don't worry about it, you got the stones to do this?
Well, he didn't sound like that. You got to work on your Torts impression for one. I maybe not as much as I would expect in a locker room.
Yeah.
He was a lot more, I don't know. I got the best of Torts. I mean, I think a lot of players get the best of Torts too. I can't specifically remember one moment, but I do remember he was fired up during the Dishigan goal. Like, we were on the broadcast for that.
Oh yeah.
And I could see it wasn't necessarily like behind the scenes, like, hey, like a rallying speech kind of thing, but I could see the glimmer in his eye. Like, he gets a expression in a way, like when he has a strong opinion that he is about to say, I guess, in a way. So like you can tell that something is coming in that way. But no, Torts is the best. I know I've said this before, but like he's a wonderful human being. Like, I've had more conversations with him about anything other than hockey. But no, I have not heard a quote like what we just heard in studio off camera.
The two things, like, my favorite night with him was opening night one year, where I just sat in the studio and watched like most of a Tampa Bay Lightning game, I think it was, with him. And I mean, being able to like see through the eyes of somebody who really knows the sport is something that I think a lot of us don't always get to experience. So that was a real joy to see the things that he was seeing during a game that I certainly wasn't seeing the same thing. The other thing is, you mentioned his quote about hitting. That's a topic we should probably drill down on in a future episode, because his notion of players not necessarily being educated in how to deliver a hit or take a check in lower levels of hockey, and then getting to the NHL and seeing that sort of trickle up over the last maybe decade or so, I thought was a really interesting point. And I saw some former players kind of reaching out about that quote and saying, you know, he's really onto something here.
Yeah, and quite frankly, he a lot of that was a very solid point. Like, a lot of people were agreeing with a lot of what he was saying there. And to your point, like he's one of the most knowledgeable people that we have in hockey. Like, forget about the character, forget about what you think of him, press conferences. I get it, right? But at the end of the day, what I saw of him is a human being that I would, endeavor to go have dinner with all the time. He's a terrific human being. Off camera,
yeah, also because he wears a lot of sweater vests. He looks like he's ready to
go
to a nice steakhouse. Yeah. I think the problem is like him as the messenger for that sort of thing about like the state of hitting in hockey. It's always going to track back to, oh, there goes Torts again. And the old Neanderthalic coach who misses the fights and the gouging and the whole thing. I agree. I think he's more nuanced than that. So I do wonder if sometimes if he's the messenger, it's like hearing Brian Burke talk about it, right? Like truculence, pugnacity. Like when you hear him talk about physicality in the game, you assume it's coming from this old school. This guy was in the NHL in the 1990s aesthetic. And so, but I think hopefully people can see that through that with Torts, and that he's got an interesting commentary about the state of hitting and the state of player safety in the game as well.
Let's move on to NHL awards. We're at the point in the season where we're just going to continuously talk about early, mid-season, mid to late season, end of season. Like we're going to do this in waves, right? But an article up on ESPN.com, the NHL Awards Watch. These are this dropped this week. Actual ballots from actual voters give you and your esteemed panel a snapshot of the current awards races. So the big headlines that came out of this, and again, you can read this on ESPN.com, but one of the big topics of conversation, was, could a defenseman win the Hart Trophy for the first time in almost 25 years, a quarter of a century? Where do you land on that question?
Let me first ask you, were you shocked to find out that the last time we had an MVP that was a defenseman was Chris Pronger back in 1999 and 2000, and that since 1969 there have only been two defensemen to win the Hart Trophy? Bobby Orr 3 times, Chris Pronger once. Did that surprise you?
Yes and no. To me, it almost diminishes the role, because when I think of the Hart Trophy, I think of an offensive player that had a fantastic season, accumulated a whole bunch of points, or I think of a goaltender that willed his team to the playoffs or had some spectacular year. We rarely talk about the defensive efforts of a defenseman. And usually, to your point about Bobby Orr, when they're in the Hart Trophy conversation, it's because they're racking up a lot of points. For example, if not for Connor McDavid last season, Erik Karlsson might have gotten some more Hart Trophy votes because he had a 100-point season.
I mean, he's playing on a team that is hot garbage. I don't think he's going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation necessarily.
But he had a 100-point season. So, my point is that he would have more thoughts about it simply because of his point totals, as opposed to what he's doing on the ice. Yes, the team, obviously, but I'm not so surprised. Are you surprised?
I am, because when you think about a goaltender winning the Hart, it makes sense. The guy plays the entire game. A defenseman that is going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation most likely is playing over 25 minutes a game, right? So that's a pretty good chunk of time every game. This defenseman most likely is influencing offense as much as he's influencing defense. I think it kind of speaks to the points and goals obsessed notion that we have as hockey fans and hockey punditry, that a player like McDavid is a default pick for the Hart, when a defenseman might be, if they're leading the league, let's say, in points for a defenseman, might also be impacting the other side of the game more than McDavid does, for example. So I don't know, when you think about the defensemen that we've had in this league in the last 20, 25 years, I mean, you're thinking about like Nick Lidstrom, Scott Niedermayer, you mentioned Erik Karlsson. You think about his days back with the Ottawa Senators. Like, we've had defensemen that are so good and so beyond the norm that you'd think that they could get more attention for MVP in one of those seasons, but it's just never happened. Now, to answer your question, it could happen this year. Quinn Hughes was in the top 3 in our NHL Awards Watch for December. Obviously, he's had a huge impact on the Vancouver Canucks, playing a ton of minutes and being an offensive force for them. And then Cale Makar only got a couple of first place votes from our panel, from the actual voters for the Hart Trophy. But I mean, when you think about the season that he's having, I mean, the Avalanche are averaging 3.83 goals per game at 5-on-5. That's the best influence for any player on the defensive side on his team this season. He's got a better expected goals against than Quinn Hughes as well. I think Quinn's been great. I think we're all looking to figure out who to give the lion's share of the credit to on the Canucks right now for how good they've been. But ultimately, if you're looking for the guy that's going to be able to win the Hart Trophy as a defenseman for the first time since Pronger in 2000, I think that guy is going to end up being Cale Makar if he's got the health.
The asterisk that I would put there is if Connor McDavid and Jack Hughes don't explode for the remainder of the season. So to your point, Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, as we record right now, are both at 34 points. Very impressive. They're in the top 6 in points in the NHL right now. Jack Hughes, 30 points in 17 games. Connor McDavid, 29 points in 20 games. Now, I'm reading these to you, and you and I both know that Jack Hughes and Connor McDavid at any point can go on long point streaks, rack them up, get to 100 plus, and to a point, in fact, where it would become prohibitive to us not award them at least a finalist vote, right?
Well,
or a finalist position. So that's where I'm like,
well, what's funny about that, Arda,
Yeah.
what's funny about that is that, like, so McDavid didn't get any first place votes in November. The Oilers sucked, so why would he, right? Like, and he wasn't scoring either. Now that he is scoring a lot of points and they're moving up the standings since the coaching change to Knobloch, you know, he received 2 first place votes this month in the Awards Watch, and both of the people that voted for him, independent of each other, because no one knows who contributes to this thing, both said, this is a vote for later in the season. Like, this is a vote for where I think it's going. You know, at some point, McDavid is going to be right back in the MVP conversation to try to win back-to-back Harts. So I am supporting him now, knowing that we're headed in that direction. And again, like, if the Oilers rally to win a playoff spot after the beginning of the season that they had, and Connor's point total is something elephantine again, like, he's definitely going to be top 3 and might actually make it back-to-back MVP wins.
And to your point there, I think there's a Mendoza line. Like, there's some magical number that we don't have in our heads yet, but we'll know it when we see it, that Connor McDavid exceeds that number, then he's an automatic lock for the Hart. If it's underneath, then we might consider a Quinn Hughes / Cale Makar or even Jack Hughes if he exceeds that number. Is there only one player that can stop Connor Bedard from winning Rookie of the Year?
Might be 2. So Bedard in the NHL Awards Watch this month was the unanimous choice amongst all of our voters to win the Calder Trophy as the league's Rookie of the Year, and rightfully so. He was Rookie of the Month in November. His scoring is incredible. I think I saw that he became like the 4th youngest player to ever have a 4-point game in NHL history in November, which is incredible. But 2 guys to keep in mind for this Rookie of the Year race. One guy is obviously Luke Hughes of the Devils, leading all rookie defensemen in scoring, second to Bedard actually amongst all rookies in scoring. And the key here is that with the Devils losing Dougie Hamilton, a devastating injury for that team, by the way, to a torn pectoral muscle, that's going to keep him out indefinitely, probably months on end. They're going to rely a lot more on Luke Hughes to do a lot more things as a rookie. And so, you know, if he gets the lion's share of the credit for stabilizing the Devils and maybe moving up and playing a larger role with Hamilton out of the lineup, it'd be interesting to see what that means vis-a-vis Bedard. The second guy is Joseph Woll, goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was 3rd in our rookie voting, and I think that you can really kind of see where it's all headed. Ilya Samsonov, terrible. Rookie, good. Leafs in a playoff race. Like, he's going to get the credit for it, and his numbers are strong. Those are the only 2 on the radar right now that I think Bedard has to worry about, with the caveat that, you know, Logan Cooley still has a pretty hefty points total for a surprisingly good Arizona team. If they're relevant and he's great, he's going to be in the conversation by the end of the season too, I think.
Dougie Hamilton out for months on end, unless he goes to Aaron Rodgers' doctor. Then he'll be back in 2.5 months.
Now the question is if he goes to Aaron Rodgers' doctor, do the Devils have to be in a playoff race for him to come back? Because that was also the caveat for Rodgers. Yeah. And as a Jets fan, I can tell you, I'd expect to see him again this year.
Yeah, no kidding.
Welcome to the 3000 Club Broadway Blue Shirts. So on December 3rd, the New York Rangers defeated the San Jose Sharks, which was their 3,000th regular season NHL win in franchise history. The Rangers now make it 5 teams at the 3,000 mark. The Blackhawks have 2,873 victories. So the Rangers are at 5, and then it goes the Red Wings, the Leafs, the Bruins, and the most franchise wins in NHL history, the Montreal Canadiens, with 3,536. Boston is particularly impressive here, though, because unlike the Habs and Leafs, who began in 1917 in the NHL, the Bruins began in 1924. Outside of the original 6, the Flyers lead the way at 2,147 wins. Then come the Blues, Penguins, Stars, and the first non-expansion era team, the Buffalo Sabres, at 1,889 wins. So which franchise has the least wins in NHL history? It's actually not the Seattle Kraken. There are actually 3 franchises with less wins in the NHL. You got the Hamilton Tigers, the Philadelphia Quakers, and the Montreal Wanderers. Funny enough, the Wanderers and the Bulldogs are actually Stanley Cup champions. That happened during the era where the Stanley Cup was sort of defended like a boxing world championship.
To the team across the Hudson, the New York Rangers, a funny question to ask about the Broadway Blue Shirts. Are they being disrespected, Wish?
Well, let's look at it. I mean, they are clearly the best team in hockey right now based on their win total, based on how they're playing. They are a juggernaut in the Eastern Conference, which is saying something because you've got the Boston Bruins there that were off to a great start. The Rangers beat them pretty handily in their head-to-head matchup recently. I was surprised not to see Artemi Panarin in the top 3 for the Hart Trophy. I think this guy has been by far one of the most valuable players in this league right now. It was Kucherov leading the charge there with David Pastrnak in the conversation along with Quinn Hughes. I think Panarin's been incredible, and I don't quite think he's getting the credit he deserves for this MVP season he's gotten. The big surprise for me, though, dude, is like when you think about the Rangers and how good they are, and you think about how they leveled up over last year's team. Well, what's the big difference between last year's team and this year's team besides, the incredible fountain of youth goaltending of Jonathan Quick? It's Peter Laviolette. Like, it is the man behind the bench. You can see it every night when the Rangers play, the difference in their play, the difference that he's made. They look like a different team than the team that Gerard Gallant coached because they're not, they didn't get faster, but they're playing faster. They're playing more aggressive. They're playing more physical. They look like a better team under Peter Laviolette. He deserves the lion's share of the credit for that. And so I am moderately surprised he isn't the favorite for the Jack Adams. It's still the Rick Tocchet show right now. But if I had a vote for Coach of the Year, I'd give it to Laviolette because the Rangers have been that good.
Yeah, I want to give credit to The Athletic on this one. I think it was a Dean Evison piece. Just the idea of former coaches watching the first couple games of their team and being like, where was this team when I was there like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
You can just imagine what, former coaches watching their current teams and how they're performing. Just kind of funny reaction thinking about this. The
problem for Lavi is that, like, if the Rangers win the President's Trophy, that does not portend good things for being Coach of the Year. Since 1986, which is when they started handing out the President's Trophy to the team with the best regular season record, that coach has only won the Jack Adams 9 times out of 36 opportunities. Now, it has happened a little bit more recently, 3 times out of the last eight seasons with Barry Trotz, Bruce Cassidy, and then Jim Montgomery last season. So that's good news for Laviolette if the Rangers end up with the league's best record. But, I mean, you think about all the coaches that have never won with great teams, guys like, Mike Babcock pre-crisis, John Cooper, people like that. There's the voters, for some reason, it's the broadcasters that vote for the award are so much more obsessed with like the narrative. Like, I took a non-playoff team and made it a playoff team. I'm a first-year coach. I made this impact. Like, there's so much more attention paid to those teams than there are the ones at the top of the standings. And it's a real bummer that some of these coaches have never been awarded commensurate to their team's success on the ice.
Well, speaking of the President's Trophy, in 2018, it was the Nashville Predators. The Jack Adams was not awarded. It was actually awarded to the Vegas Golden Knights. It was their inaugural year. But the reason I bring up the Nashville Predators is because we have a special guest here on The Drop, none other than superstar Predators forward, Filip Forsberg. This is a fun one. Pleased to be joined now here on ESPN's The Drop by Filip Forsberg of the Nashville Predators. The Preds are rolling right now on a 6-game win streak. Filip, thank you very much for joining us. I kind of want to rewind it back a little bit, though. I'm always curious, like, for someone like yourself, been on a team for a long time, and then a new head coach comes in, right? Andrew Brunette takes the post as head coach. What happens in the off season? Like, how much conversation is had? Who reaches out first? Can you take us through that journey of, like, even before you guys step on the ice for training camp, what that communication is like?
Yeah, I mean, it was it's obviously has happened before when Laviolette took over from Barry Trotz actually a handful of years ago, but this one was a little different, obviously, with it happening kind of later in the summer. Like, we didn't really know what was going to happen, if John Hynes was going to come back or not, and ended up being a fairly late into the summer decision. And I was here in town when Coach Bruno was announced with the press conference. That was the first time I met him, and obviously just spoke to him very briefly. And then there was a few conversations over the phone throughout the summer, and just kind of get a little bit of a feel for who he is as a person, but also as a coach. And I think it's been a very good transition so far.
Did you almost have a heart attack when you heard Barry Trotz say you guys are going to be an offensive team under Bruno?
I mean, it's a little change. I mean, obviously from him, right? You didn't know what to expect when he was coming back, but I think just the mix of obviously the experience that Barry has as a coach, but also just in hockey in general, and bringing in Bruno, who was, I mean, got a ton of experience as a player, and then obviously has been assistant coach and brief head coach there for the Panthers. And I think the mix of the two of them, and obviously our style of play in general has been a good combination so far.
I was going to ask you about another offseason addition in Ryan O'Reilly. I mean, it's always interesting to me when you bring in a player that you're so used to competing so intensely against as an opponent, and a player that obviously has a heck of a reputation coming in with the Stanley Cup win and the leadership and all that stuff. What are the things you've learned about him since you became a teammate of Ryan O'Reilly's?
Well, I think it's the small things that you don't see all the time. Like you said, he was with St. Louis and Colorado for long enough that we played him 1,000 times a year. It feels like, and he was tough to play against. But then once you see all the work that he puts in every day, I mean, he's here and he's working on those small details before practice. I mean, he's in my opinion very underrated. Like, I didn't realize how good he actually is, like on everything. Like, you knew he was great at faceoff. You knew he was going to be almost impossible to play against when you played against it. But then he comes here and you see the offensive upside to all the small things that he does. I mean, it's been really cool, and really, I mean, I try to learn as much as I can from him as well.
There's some big news regarding the NHL All-Star game. The draft is back on Thursday. So I just want you to imagine that you're part of the All-Star game this year. I'm very curious about a player's perspective of this. I think it's cool. I think it's going to be a fun show from a fan perspective. But as a player, what do you make of the selection show being back, going back to the roots of hockey, street hockey, etc.? And also, is it true that how much truth is there to players not necessarily liking being among the last to be selected in a scenario like that?
I mean, I was actually, the last time they did this, I was actually there. It was my rookie year. So they picked a few rookies to be in the game, and then a couple guys bailed out last minute. So I was able to actually be in the actual like draft or the game part of the All-Star game, which was great. It's a great experience as a rookie doing that. But that was actually the last time they did the draft. So me and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins were able to get those cars, and I'm obviously very happy about that. But at the same time, I definitely would have liked to be picked a little bit earlier than that. So hopefully, if that happens, I'll be picked a pick or two higher at least. But I think it's cool. It obviously, like you said, it adds a little bit of fun, a lot of goofing around. I mean, obviously Ovechkin was sitting there and trying to get that car so hard at that time when we were there, and it was a fun thing to be a part of.
As Arda mentioned, the NHL is making these big moves, creating, a new All-Star format, but also creating what we understand to be a new mid-season international tournament. Not a World Cup, obviously, but kind of a I don't know, a Ryder Cup or something, a Four Nations tournament or something, where it'd be the US and Canada on one side of the bracket and Sweden and Finland on the other side of the bracket. What were your thoughts when you heard about that format maybe happening in 2025?
I'm all for it. I think we need to get some kind of international hockey back with NHL players participating, and I understand the concerns of World Cups, Olympics, all that type of stuff. I know it's not the easiest thing just to put together, but I do think that we're currently, I mean, us as players, but also the fans out there are being. I mean, we're not getting to watch and play these. I mean, the best games. Like I remember watching the Olympics and stuff like that growing up, and best on best hockey. I mean, you can't beat it. And representing your country in those situations is special. I mean, I've been fortunate enough. I was in the World Cup, obviously, which was a little different with the Europe team and the young team, and then a couple of World Championships. But those are different too, just with no like playoff players in there, obviously. So I am all for it, and playing Finland is obviously a little bit extra special for sure.
So, Philip, hockey media loves to cover Nashville and go to Nashville because it's a very fun city. What would you say is the best part about living in Nashville?
I mean, I see why you people would like it, because there's a lot of entertainment. I mean, obviously, especially with the building being where it is, like you can have a good time within minutes of the puck. By the game is ended, you can be having a good time real quick after it. But for me, I think it's just the people. I mean, even since I first came here, there's a saying, obviously, with Southern hospitality, and that's something that's really through the city as a whole. I mean, I came here when I was 19, over 10 years ago, and the city really helped me out. I mean, at the time, I didn't really know anything about anything, and a lot of people that was really helpful to me. And I mean, yeah, to still to this day, there's people that I met early on that still keep in touch with, and I think the people are the best thing with it.
Look, Forsberg, just because we hold our professional hockey writers meetings at Tootsie's does not mean that we imbibe on Broadway. Hey, are you a hot chicken guy? Do you eat the hot chicken in Nashville?
I mean, I don't love spicy food, so I can't say I do. I mean, I think I don't know if you guys have seen the new Hattie B's location, but it's right across from Bridgestone. It's a pretty prime location. So next time you guys come, you can at least fuel up before you get going at Tootsie's over there. It's a great spot. They did a really good job with it.
Did you try it and you're like, I can't do this again? I understand the novelty, but it's not for me.
Yeah, and I did, and I went like a 2 out of 7 or something like that on the hot scale. So I wasn't even halfway there. I got some work to do on that part for sure.
Last one for me, and thanks again for your time. I understand that you are the minority owner of Nashville's MLS team. What's that been like?
I mean, it's been crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Especially we jumped on about a year ago, almost exactly now, and this first year has been, pretty wild to say the least. With obviously Messi being the highlight for the whole league, but just Nashville's League's Cup run, making the finals, playing, just said Messi in the finals, and it's been really cool, kind of seeing the whole city embrace soccer, and because I love soccer. I've done it since I was a kid, obviously being in Europe, and soccer is such a big part of everything over there. It's really cool to see that coming here. Obviously, it's just, bringing the best player ever is obviously a great marketing decision by David Beckham. Don't get me wrong. I wish hopefully we can do something similar here in Nashville at some point too, but it's awesome. I think it's been a great journey, and I'm really excited about the future with it.
Did you get to meet him?
No, I did not. We actually, it was funny. They play the finals, obviously, and there was probably 10 guys from the team that went, and we had one of our Russian guys asked me, Yakov Tren, he's like, "Hey, do you think we can get to meet Messi after the game?" And I was like, "Nah, I mean, I don't really think we have that type of pull here." And he was like dead serious too, and he's like, "Okay, no problem."
Yeah, well, it's got to happen next season. You're a minority owner. I mean, eventually, there's got to be some room that you and Messi will be in the same room, right?
I'm hoping. Like I said, the first year we were kind of just learning, trying to get to know some of the people, but now the second year we're going to take over a little bit more, make some changes, and hopefully we can get in that room. That'd be cool.
All right,
that'd be awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to see that picture. My last question, it's a quick one. You are obviously very well known for the mustache, right? Like, it's part of the persona, part of the Filip Forsberg presentation, the character. I'm just curious, like, how often do people bring it up, whether it's interviews, on the street? Like, how often is the mustache brought up in just general conversation for you?
I'd say about at least once a day. So it's every day for sure. It's obviously hard to not to. It's like it's mostly like some people that obviously like random people will stop. You're like, oh, a nice mustache. And it's like, oh, thanks, and so that's cool. It's I think it's definitely a conversation starter. It's a topic. A lot of people like it, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to miss too, I guess. So it's a little bit of my own fault.
Yeah, love to see it. It's like the mustache of the NHL generation. Filip Forsberg joining us here on The Drop. I can't wait to see the picture of you and Messi. That's what we have to look forward to now next season.
All right. I like that. Sounds good to me.
All right, man.
Thanks a bunch to Filip Forsberg for joining us on The Drop. I hope we do get that picture of him and Leo Messi at some point. It should happen. Impromptu search for merch. Wish this is where we invite any NHL teams or hockey adjacent brands to send us cool stuff so that we can show it off on the show, especially if it's wacky and unique. You know me, I love my Star Wars Night merchandise. I think this is one of my favorite pieces. I wish I had it with me to show Filip Forsberg to get his reaction. I'll consider that a big miss on my part in the name of journalism, but this is a Star Wars Night Filip Forsberg bobblehead, which is terrific. I think this is one of my favorite pieces of Star Wars Night. Very creative.
Yeah, and yellow lightsaber. The kyber crystals tell us that he's a Jedi by that virtue. So it's a good looking. That's a good looking bobblehead. I like it a lot.
So there you have it. Let's move on to power rankings. We love to do power rankings here on The Drop. The top 5 most surprising goal scoring stars this season. Will Filip Forsberg be on the list? Spoiler alert, he is not.
No surprises there. The
no
man
surprises because he's great.
He's dominant.
And he's to be expected.
Who's surprising? Who's surprising? Number 5, Mackenzie Weegar.
Uh-huh.
Why would Mackenzie Weegar ever be on a goal scoring list? Well, it's because he has 6 goals already as we do the show. His career high is 8 goals. Arda, say what you will. I think we have to stop calling this the Matthew Tkachuk trade and start calling it the Mackenzie Weegar trade, man.
Come on. I love it. 6 goals. Let's go, baby. The Mackenzie Weegar trade in full effect. Forget about the Stanley Cup final. No. 6 goals so far in the season. But that is very impressive, Mackenzie Weegar. How about Jake Neighbors of the St. Louis Blues? He's got 9 goals, already a career high. He leads the Blues in goals and had only 1 assist in 23 games. I think that's the Kirill Marchenko rule, or the Cy Young award of hockey.
Well,
he's
actually,
an EA Sports glitch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if everyone experienced this, but when I used to play like NHL 94, 95, I think I was playing on Nintendo, like Super Nintendo, when you would do the play until a day thing, for a season to just like jump to the playoffs, there was a glitch where a dude would have like 60 goals and no assists. I don't know if this happened on every gaming platform. Maybe I had a bum cartridge, but Jake Neighbors' goal total right now, 9 goals, 1 assist. It feels like an EA Sports glitch.
Yeah, I love it. Who's number 3?
Number 3 is Michael Carcone. Now, if you asked 100 people, Arda, where does Michael Carcone play? How many people would know it's the Arizona Coyotes?
98. I have faith in the hockey world. I have faith.
My dude's got 11 goals in 22 games, and he's a great story. He's like in his late 20s. He spent 8 years in the American Hockey League, kind of bouncing around. And the other great thing about him, too, this is a quintessential NHL 2023-2024 kind of story, because my man is listed at 5'9". It's hockey. He's probably about 5'2", and he is scoring a bunch of goals for the Arizona Coyotes right now. And the Coyotes, again, there's so many good stories on the team right now as far as like them contending at this point. But his arrival as a surprising goal scorer is one of them. And
give him extra points because he's scoring a lot of those goals at the mullet, which is always wonderful to see. Brockett Richard is number 2. Brock Besser led the NHL in goals through 25 games, 17. Okay, can you just give me a little bit? We don't have to go too deep on the Canucks here, but like, what is working for them? Like Brock Besser leading in goals, Elias Pettersson becoming a superstar, Quinn Hughes, Thatcher Demko. Like how is this all working together for the Canucks and seeing success early here?
Well, when you watch them, you'll notice that all of those players are on the ice, which means that they're healthy, which means that they're not injured. And that has been the biggest problem, in particular with Brock Besser through the years, his ability to stay in the lineup. So as he leads the NHL in goals, as he leads the NHL in goals per 60 in all situations, 2.17 more than anybody else with at least 300 minutes played. Prayer circle for Brock Besser that he stays healthy, he plays a full 82, and we get to see the completion of what is becoming one of the better goal scoring seasons we've seen from a Canuck in a very long time. And hopefully he continues to stay healthy. Hopefully they all do, and the Vancouver Canucks continue to contend in the West.
All right, and number one,
it's got to be Frank Vatrano, man. 14 goals in 24 games. This guy's bounced around like a super happy fun ball from Boston to Florida to the New York Rangers. His previous high in the first 2 months of the season was 7 goals. My dude's got 14. I mean, say what you will about Brock Besser, contending for the Rocket Richard, but this is the goal-scoring hero of the opening part of the season. Frank Vatrano of the Anaheim Ducks. Go, Frankie, go.
I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know what Super Happy Fun Ball was, and I'm looking it up, and I realize it's now an SNL skit. Okay.
Oh my God! Do not
know.
taunt Super Happy Fun Ball. It is a classic. Go look on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go down a rabbit hole now. How could I not know? Wow, I'm embarrassed. You know what? That's our power rankings. Good. I agree. Vatrano, and also like a bunch of hat tricks too, right? Like he was like scoring like incredible at an incredible pace, especially the first few games of the year. He was like a surprise name, but good for him and the Anaheim Ducks charging along. I went, speaking of rabbit holes, and I will look up Super Happy Fun Ball later. I went down a rabbit hole of NHL players and what they do after their careers. Now, a lot of them obviously get into analyst work, you know, and on broadcasts, etc. A lot of them continue to work in hockey, whether it's front office, general manager, coaching, scouting, hockey operations, whatever. I like hearing about the players that either leave hockey entirely or also just find or assume fun, interesting, off the beaten path jobs after their hockey careers. The reason I was inspired by this is because this past weekend, you may have seen the video online of Marcel Hossa, Marian Hossa's brother, who played obviously in the NHL with the Rangers and the Canadiens and the Coyotes for a cup of tea. He is now a boxer. So there was footage of him boxing in a boxing ring in a professional fight this past weekend. And I thought that was really cool. And then I got thinking of, hey, wait a second. We heard a similar story in the last few days, Wish. Dustin Byfuglien, after leaving hockey, is now a professional fisherman. And I'm like, man, I wonder what more kind of jobs exist like this. So, for example, Mike Richter. This Rangers. Is a common one. This is probably maybe the most common of the non-hockey jobs. A lot of finance out there, right? So he started a private equity firm, the president of Brightcore Energy, which is a clean energy solutions company. Wow. So he really cool that, you know, going into the corporate world. But maybe the most vocal example of this is Eddie Lack, who's very, very active on social media, and you love it because he's got a great account. He's a real estate agent, and he takes us into that world, which is a lot of fun. It's almost like a reality show.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we can't get him on Selling Sunset at some point, except for the fact that he sells his houses, I think, in Arizona. Is where Eddie Lack is? Yeah, real estate's a big deal, man. You remember Zdeno Chara was studying to get his real estate license. His post-playing days so far, he's like still an athlete, but now is like a runner. I mean, he became a USA Triathlon long course winner, and this made me laugh, buddy. He's the long course winner in the Clydesdale division of the U.S. Triathlon, which is incredible and absolutely apropos for Zdeno Chara.
Absolutely. You love to see that. So obviously the jobs today, this would be after their careers wind down. Now in the 60s and prior to that, when the salaries weren't necessarily where they are today, obviously, a lot of hockey players, a lot of NHL players took jobs in the summer. And one that struck, going down the rabbit hole, one that I couldn't help but like be fascinated by is a Leafs defenseman Gus Mortson. He played in the 40s and 50s. He won 4 Stanley Cups with the Leafs. Now imagine you win a Stanley Cup and then you go take your summer job and you're prospecting for gold. So you go to like northern Ontario or like the north regions of Canada, and you have your giant backpack and you have your pickaxe and you find like, you know, faces of caves and mountains, and you're picking and looking for gold, and you're like, this looks good. Maybe I'll take it back and investigate further. And you have the little monocle, what is it, magnifier, and you're looking at like, it's just like the idea of that is crazy.
Now I like the idea of a crazy old gold prospector being in the NHL. He's got his playoff beard is one of those just big, long gray ones. And he's just like, you know what really burnt my biscuits tonight? Kind of thing, you know, that'd be amazing.
So that got us thinking, what after hockey jobs would be perfect for current or very recently retired NHL players? Wish, why don't you get us started here?
Sure thing. For me, the perfect job for Patrik Laine of the Columbus Blue Jackets would be to host Moodlin Hupule. I am butchering that. I apologize to my Finnish friends. That translates to the top of fashion. Yes, that's right. Moodlin Hupule is Finland's version of the American reality television series Project Runway. Anyone who has seen Patrik Laine walk into arena knows that he'd be perfect as the host of Finland's Project Runway.
We need Moodlin Hupule, I apologize, Finnish fans, on a shirt, by the way. That's the next shirt we need. I'm going to add to that. So after Laine gets famous for the Finnish Project Runway on TV, he's going to recruit Jack Hughes and Louis Domingue, and they're going to start a cooking competition. And the main ingredient will be broccoli.
Why broccoli?
By then, Jack Hughes will know how to cook broccoli. Remember, there's that famous thing with Ty Smith.
I remember Domingue with the broccoli, but I forgot about Jack with the broccoli. That's right.
Jack interrupted Ty Smith's live stream to ask him how to cook broccoli once. So that'll be the main ingredient, and then that'll be like a whole thing. And actually, you should be a part of that since you're a big cooking guy.
Oh yeah,
you're a cooking show guy.
Obviously, Iron Chef adjacent. The big thing rises to the floor of the dry ice. It's broccoli. Andrzej Kopitar, only one career for him beyond, Benicio del Toro cosplayer. That would be professional dog show handler. Gustal Kopitar has more Instagram followers than I do, less than Arda does. I should probably ask my therapist about that. Couldn't you see Andrzej Kopitar, the proud parent of this beautiful dog, prancing around Westminster like Eugene Levy in Best in Show as he's attempting to have a golden doodle of some sort win a prize? I can see it.
The best part is that the pet Instagram accounts, if they pop off and go viral, they make some serious coin. Like, there's potential there to make more money with those accounts if they get into the millions than an NHL player, like many NHL players. It's crazy.
It could easily be a pet influencer as well.
100%. Just post every day, get into the algorithm, it pops off, and all of a sudden Andrzej Kopitar is like has a pet influencer, like getting brand sponsorships, appearances. Oh yeah. That'd be a whole second career. And then get more dogs in the mix too. Like basically like have a whole crew of Instagram accounts. Amazing. Nick Foligno will absolutely go on the motivational speaking tour. I see him like a David Goggins type, basically giant conference rooms full of people, thousands, maybe gets into arenas at some point where he's just influencing us and motivating us to live our best life. He's giving us tips on leadership. He's doing corporate events where like brands bring him into giant boardrooms with C and V level people sitting around, and he's telling them how to lead a company and how to motivate your staff and how to create the best work environment and how to put the best culture in. That's Nick Foligno to me.
Yeah, and it's going to be something really dumb, like, go into the corners, don't be afraid to stand in front of the crease. It's such easy money. I wish I could do it myself. Jacob Trouba of the New York Rangers. There's a lot of careers for Jacob Trouba of the New York Rangers, but obviously the one he'll end up in is Executive Vice President of Player Safety for the National Hockey League.
Oh man.
Because they hire the people that know the tricks of the trade, if you will.
This is supposed to be non-hockey, but yes, we'll accept that. I love it. And finally, Joe Thornton will, very similar to Patrick Laine, will get into television and decide that he's going to create his own travel show called Jumbo's Jet, where he will go around the world and he will sample foods and he will learn cultures from all around the world. And the beard will also play a big part. Maybe in each country, he will learn the best methods to keep a beard.
Yeah,
and bring back to the United States or North America.
It could be like kind of like semi-naked and afraid. Like he'll be shirtless. He'll just be traveling sans top throughout all of these places. Could definitely work. And
then there's a counter. How many times he's asked to put on a shirt in an establishment? Like there's like a counter on the bottom left, like a graphic. Yeah, I love it. Executive Vice President of Player Safety.
Yeah. Got it. You know, it's like hiring a hacker to run your security. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like Google saying, "Hey, if you can get into our mainframe, we will pay you to keep it
run
secure."
Our security.
Yeah,
exactly. You got to find someone who knows the ins and outs of legalities.
We have a lot of exciting guests in the docket for the drop. We don't want to announce them just yet because we're in the final stages of trying to plan them all. But it's going to be a very exciting stretch to the end of the year and into early 2024 as well. So thank you for enjoying the drop. Thanks for listening wherever you happen to listen or watch, wherever you get your podcasts as well, on the NHL and ESPN YouTube. He's Wish. I'm Arda. We will catch you on Thursday.
Bye.